Welcome to another exciting edition of the Digital Download. A little bit different today. It's just Tim and I having a chat.
Just the two of us.
Just the two of us. But we wanted to do the show anyway.
I think it's No Hair Friday or something, isn't
it? No Hair Friday. Yeah. Well, yes. It's a bit like you put a mirror down the middle, isn't it?
You know yeah.
But it's.
I need to draw a beard on.
Yeah. Or I could quickly go and shave mine off. But we wanted to talk about social selling. We wanted to talk about being active on social, and we wanted to talk about what we're seeing in the marketplace. You know, we get to talk to a lot of organizations and see trends unfolding. And some things seem to be eternal in terms of, you know, people's understanding of this and people's perception of what's going on and challenges that are being faced. But certainly some things seem to be new to the fore. You know, obviously AI with all of its upsides and downsides, but also the fact that certainly for the companies that I'm talking to, there's a real sense of unease in the marketplace. You know, I wouldn't go as far as it's desperation, although some are desperate. It's more like a sense of impending doom, almost.
Yeah. Before we start, I just wanted to say that from a social perspective or social selling, just wanted to set definitions. Because a lot of people still think that social selling is going on the social and selling and basically spamming people, and that's not what we're advocating.
Yeah.
So we have our definition of social selling is using your presence and behavior on social media to build influence, make connections, grow relationships and trust, which lead to conversations and commercial interactions. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about using social media as a mechanism to go out and have conversations, which ultimately means you're going to sell stuff. That does not mean that we're going to go onto social media and sell. It's a subtle difference. Oh, you're on
mute there. Yeah, sorry. I think that
Hi, Andrew, by the way.
Yeah, hello, Andrew. I think one of the things is that we used to talk about social networking, and now we talk about social selling or social media or social marketing. And actually, it's not a good way to sell. It's not a good way to market. It's not a good way to broadcast it, but it is a really good way to network, isn't it? So if you kind of picture it in your mind as an infinite networking event where everybody that you're ever likely to want to talk to is there, exactly the same way as going to a big industry event. You know, you can walk up to someone and you can either say to them, "Hi, I do injection molding. I can sell you an injection molding machine. It's the best injection molding machine on the market, and it's much more efficient than anyone else's. And this is," or you can walk up to someone and say, "Hi, I'm Adam. Who are you?" Tim. "Oh, okay. Hi, Tim. What do you do?" And then you build some rapport and have some conversations with people.
Yeah, I think that. I mean, I often say to people in presentations, you know, if I could pick you up in my car tomorrow and drive you to a building which was full of a warehouse full of your customers, all you have to do is to go up and talk to them. Would you like to go? And I said, you know, put up your hand. And everyone always puts their hand up. I said, well, that's LinkedIn. So what's the gap that's stopping you having conversations with, you know, when you've basically got a warehouse full of your ICPs? Why are you not having conversations with them? And so what's that gap?
Well, certainly it's a really interesting point, actually, because certainly what I see is that salespeople, so let's talk about sales because that's one of the big kind of issues. Salespeople are really good at having conversations. They're really good at building rapport. They're really good at building trust. They're very credible. They want to achieve their number. They want to sell things. They want to be successful. They know absolutely how to do all of this stuff. And yet, when they go into the digital world, they leave all that at the door, and they take all, you know, the reason that you're more successful than me in this room full of people is because you're better at being yourself and you understand what your USP is and you're more relaxed and you're more friendly and all of those things that make you an attractive, interesting, popular person. And yet in the digital world, people forget all that, don't they? They step out there and they say, okay, I've got my script sorted. I've got my mode of attack sorted. I'm going to be constantly closing and qualifying people in or out and all of this stuff, all of which is the absolute antithesis of building relationships and friendships and trust with people.
Well, we all hate being sold to.
Mm.
It's a fundamental truth of being human. We hate being sold to. And then we go onto social media and start selling to people. So we're doing what we hate people doing to us. And I think part of that is a bandwagon bias, which is we see everybody else doing it on LinkedIn. So you said, just before we came live, is that you're currently coaching an organization, and some of the salespeople have basically gone and they've gone onto LinkedIn and gone, well, let's see what everybody else is doing. I'll do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what happens is that you just copy everybody else. And of course, it's very comfortable copying everybody else. It's like wearing jeans. We all wear jeans because we like the comfort of being the same as everybody else. And I think that also happens on social, which is that we see somebody doing something or we see somebody getting 100 likes. Therefore, we're going to do that. I mean, I've spoken to a person. His new CRO basically connected us, and he's getting 200, 300 likes per post. But he's getting no meetings off it. He gets no revenue off it. And he admits it doesn't scale. And I say, well, why do you? He says, I'm spending all my time basically doing this. I said, well, you don't need to be doing, an hour a day. Oh, it's like 12, 14 hours, and you're getting nothing from it. Why? And it's just one of those things. Well, I've seen everybody else, therefore I'm going to do that and copy it.
Well, in fact, this company that I was talking to just this week, one of the things that was really interesting about that is so they're quite new to this whole kind of social, certainly from a creating a strategy and a plan and thinking about the actual actions they need to take. And I said, well, first of all, they've got some bad advice. They have a LinkedIn account manager, and the LinkedIn account manager said, well, you just send a connection request. You don't need to put a note in. So, okay, well, is that good practice was the question. So, no, that's very bad practice. And the reason it's bad practice is you've got one chance to make a first impression. So you should send a connection request, which is friendly and approachable and flattering and all of those things, because you want those people to look at your profile and jump to a conclusion about you so they can actually think, oh, here's somebody that I should keep an eye out. And I said, if you walk through a door and I'm walking through the door after you and you hold the door open for me and I just walk through and then you come to another door, are you going to, if I haven't thanked you for the last door, you're going to hold the door open for me? And everyone went, no. Okay. So if somebody likes a post of yours or someone accepts your connection request, or do you say thank you? No. Should you say thank you? Well, yeah, obviously, of course I should when you put it like that. Exactly. And these little actions that just make you look a little bit better than everybody else are so obvious when they're laid out to you. And one of the things that they said was, this is all blindingly obvious, but we don't do any of it.
Yeah, you see, one of the I follow what other people who talk about social selling talk about, and the common practice is that these people say is not to send a note, and the reason why they do that is because, of course, what they're actually advocating is that you're going to spam the people.
Yeah,
because if I send you. Because what they found is that when I send you a connection request that says, "Dear Adam, here's a list of my products and services. Can we connect?" What do?
Yeah, run away,
ignore,
yeah,
or even block.
Yeah.
And so what they do is that they don't send a connection request, and then you connect. You look at the person's profile and you go, "I know what's going to happen. They're going to spam me because I can see just from looking at their profile that they're a spammer." And of course, they then say, "Here's a list of our products and services," and of course, then you ignore them. But the fact of the matter is that what they're measuring is the number of people that actually accept. Now, We know from our benchmark that we can get anything. If you teach people properly, you should be getting 60 to 80%. When you send a connection request, you should be getting a 60 to 80% connection request rate. Whereas, I'm talking to a company that's getting anything between 13%, because all they're doing is they're spamming people.
Yeah, and one of the things again that was really interesting is that when you put the pieces of the puzzle together for people, it starts to come into focus for them, and it's like, so the first thing that I said was, the cornerstone is you have to have a good profile, because if you haven't got a good profile, somebody looks at you, they just think, here's somebody, like you said, that's a spammer or is of no interest to me, or not somebody that I need to watch out for. So you need to have a good profile, and by good, it needs to be friendly and approachable, interesting, colourful, and relevant. So if all you ever talk about is pharmaceuticals as being your target industry, and I'm in manufacturing, then probably I'm not going to be of much interest to you. So make it appropriate. And then once you've done that, the question that I posed to them as a group was, how many connections have you got, and how many of those are in the place that you want to be generating influence? Well, I've got 2,000 connections, and probably 200 of them are in the right place. Okay, well, if you send 100 connection requests a week and half of the people accept, at the end of the year, if you just connect to your ICPs from now, and at the end of the year, you'll have another 2,500 people that are in your sweet spot. So you've gone, in the space of a year, you've gone from 200 people that you want to have a conversation with that are consuming your content to 2,700 people that are consuming. That's an order of magnitude in terms of uplift in possible value that you're going to get out of it. Oh yeah, because historically, what I've done is I've connected to people that I've met, which obviously is great. When you meet someone, you should connect to them. But also, why not turn that around and say, connect to the people that you want to meet? Oh yeah,
I know it's a networking platform. It's what it's there for.
Yeah,
and Andrew and Ian and all those people that are making comments, I've never met them, but I've met them through LinkedIn.
Yeah,
and I would say that I kind of know them, and I would even possibly call them friends.
Well, yes. So Jan made a really interesting comment here about when we're talking about going into a room full of people. Yeah, part of it is fear, and I think one of the everlasting fears of people is that when LinkedIn has now got 1.2 billion active members. So you're concerned that if you post something and you're wrong or you make a fool of yourself, 1.2 billion people are going to point at you and laugh. That's the fear that everybody has. But one of the things that I said to this company was, don't flatter yourself, because to begin with, there ain't nobody looking at what you're doing. You have to earn the right for that, and you have to earn the right by demonstrating you are listening to people as well as just talking. So engaging with that person's content, and we've all done it, haven't we? Where we've been sharing some content, and somebody likes it, and then the next bit of content they comment on it, and the next bit they like it, and the next bit they like it, and the next bit they comment, and the next bit they like, and then we think eventually, who is this Hughes bloke that keeps engaging with my content? And then they look at your profile, and then they see you everywhere. And that's what we need to do if we want people to notice us. Exactly. If you say thank you. And I think what's really interesting is that these are tiny incremental things. And so often the pushback is, so you're saying if you say thank you to somebody, is that going to sell the product or service? No, not in itself it isn't. But if I say thank you all the time and you never say thank you, that makes me just a little bit more likable than you. And if you compound that with every interaction, everything that you share being more helpful, more friendly, more approachable, more humorous, more whatever, you become the person that either I know best because I've engaged the most and seen the most stuff, or that I like the most because, oh, well, this person's really courteous and kind. And these are simple things that every human that's ever got any sort of relationship or friendship with somebody knows. And yet, back to my early point, this is something which is parked at the door, isn't it? People forget.
I think that I think there's a real point about incremental gains, and how doing, it's a bit like just send 100 connection requests a week. I mean, LinkedIn allow you to send 200, but just by sending 100 a week, that it compounds. It's a bit like compound interest. It compounds over time. So, and I know you always say that a network of 1,000 people is twice as good as a network of 500 people. And then just connect with the people in your area. But this incremental gains of, just saying thank you, and being different, but just doing, the manners are exactly the same on digital as they are in the analog world. Just as much as if I walked into a networking event, opened my coat up and said, "Do you want to buy a watch?" I'd be thrown out. So why when you do that on social media, do you not expect to be thrown out?
Well, this is really interesting, and interesting point here that Jan makes about no longer accepting business cards, scanning someone and connecting to them. And I think that's a really important fundamental behavior to have, because a business card is ratification of a one-off exchange or interaction with someone, whereas a connection means that they're going to see all of your content from now on, or have a chance of seeing all of your content from now on. And I'm mindful of that we relentlessly connect to people and ask all of those people for a conversation if they're appropriate, which they are, which is why we're connecting to them. And there was one sales leader that I did this to, and he thought he was being really clever when he came back with this response. So let's assume that I've had this interaction with him on LinkedIn today. I've said to him, "I'd love to have a call with you. This is a networking platform, so let's network. I'd love to have a call so you can explain what it is that you do. We can see what kind of synergy there is, or whatever it was I put in the message." And he said, "Unfortunately, I only see." No, he said, "Are you buying from me?" And I said, "No, not at the moment." And he said, "Okay, well, for people that aren't buying from me, unfortunately, I only have a week when I see them, which is the last week of June. So if you'd like to book in for next year." And I thought, well, that's really funny. I mean, it's extremely rude and obnoxious, but it's really funny. But you're a bloke that's got 700 connections and you never post anything. I'm a bloke that's got 15,000 connections and I post pretty much every day. I've got a huge network. If I comment on some of the stuff that you do, it's possible that some of the people in my network might see some of those comments and think, "Oh, this guy, this Hughes bloke looks interesting. Maybe I'll check out what he does. Maybe I'll drop him a line because we need to get some prices in for it." But the narrow-mindedness of this.
I had a bloke recently that basically we connected, and he said, "I want to have a meeting." Okay, yeah, fine. And then so we got on the meeting, and he said, "So what are you selling me?" So, well, actually, I want to have a he sells blockchain. So as far as he's concerned, he doesn't have to sell anything. People just ring him up and buy.
Yeah.
Now, you could argue that's the case, but I think I know people that say that, but they could actually sell more if they did other things.
Yeah.
But it was really interesting because I actually wanted him to come on my podcast. So I can get him access to 500,000 people, 35 million people through the internet radio show, which is, most people will pay for that coverage.
Yeah.
Except no, he told me to piss off and put the phone down because he didn't want to have a conversation with me because he thought I was trying to sell him something.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? And I do think that part of this is potentially because people have become desensitized. I send you a connection request, you accept, and then I immediately start spamming you with my products. So if that happens 1,000 times on the trot, your expectation is that the next thing is the next person that sends you a connection request, they'll start to spam you immediately with their products as soon as you've accepted, if you were to accept. And I think people become desensitized by this, but so much of this is that kind of blinkered outlook, isn't it? And if you were to throw the if you were to kind of throw the blinkers off and take a wider view of this, we often say about not selling to your network, but selling through your network. And this idea that we, yes, I would love to have you as a client, but yes, I would like you to be either deliberately or by virtue of your actions promoting me out to everybody that knows you and likes you and trusts you. And the way that you get that is by engaging with people. It's like it used to be the case that if Stephen Fry tweeted about your website would go down because so many people would move from that to your website and it wouldn't be able to handle the bandwidth. So, if somebody that has a big network, even if it isn't as big as your own network, if someone's got a big network, 500, 5,000, 50,000 followers, and you manage to engage them in a conversation, some of those people are going to see that conversation if it's going on in the public domain. Why would that not be attractive to everybody? You're more than happy to go by chance to a networking event where they say, stand up and give us your 30-second elevator pitch, to a bunch of people that are completely numb to these pitches because they get, pitch after pitch after pitch after pitch after pitch, and they're told you need to have a compelling elevator pitch. We provide print services for small and medium-sized businesses in this area. Well, great, like 1,000 other businesses do.
Yeah, the one I'm getting at the moment is we give help to leaders in small, medium companies, whether it's mental health and I get probably 4 of those a week, and they're all exactly the same.
So the one that I've got at the moment, and I'm going to write a post on this actually, I have received a number of connection requests that say, bear with me, caller, they say,
is it the same connection request?
It is from different people in different countries.
Because the other thing, while you're finding it, the other thing is that I'm connected to a whole bunch of VCs who help startups, and basically they put out and say, this is the pitch decks you need to use. These are the emails that you need to send to VCs. Just like, are you really advocating that we send the same email and the same pitch deck to a VC?
So
come on.
If you had any of these recently, hi Tim, I noticed your post. Is it possible to send me more information about your services / coaching programs? Would love to connect and learn more.
Yes,
so of those.
Yes. So the change that's happened is that they're either using AI or whatever, but whether it's spam email or it's a connection request, the first sentence or 2 sentences will be about your business. I saw this post and I or I saw your company and isn't it great that you're and then they basically pitch. And clearly there's either a marketing profs or someone out there, there's a multi-billion industry basically teaching people how to send spam emails, and it's clearly the new best practice, and I guess it probably works. And by the way, I don't ever respond to spam emails. No. Anybody who sends me says this is my list of products and services, and this is I never respond. I create rules, and they go into the waste paper bin because I'm not interested in spam email.
No,
but would do people really buy from spam emails? I mean, come on.
I guess somebody might.
Well, I guess so, but the rate is so low.
If you send out 1 million, maybe 10 of them are in the right place at the right time, and people do buy or at least ask for more information. The thing that I find really amazing, though, is when somebody has done less than no research. Now, I reckon I'm pretty good at social. I mean, you might argue that there are people that are better in the world than me. You might argue that I haven't got the best profile in the world, but I reckon that I'm towards the top of the pile rather than the bottom of the pile. Over the last year, I've probably had 50 emails from people offering me help in using LinkedIn. Did you know that LinkedIn is a great resource for generating conversations?
Yeah.
So I did get to the point where I would send them a note that said, clearly you haven't done a huge amount of research on what I actually do. Yeah, it is funny.
So I mean, what are you seeing? I mean, you know, it's actually because we're only a month away now from our 9th birthday.
Yeah.
So what have you seen that's changed in the last 9 years, apart from AI?
Yeah. If I'm perfectly honest, very little. You know, I think Brian Solis said this phrase, which I just absolutely love. He said, social media is about psychology, not technology.
Yeah.
It's about understanding what drives people to get the behaviors that you want those people to be. So I say please, you say thank you. You know, these are pretty automatic behaviors in people. And using those behaviors to get people to the point where you want them to be. And I think that, you know, we've always said that social selling is not about selling. You can't sell on social. If you've got a complex or strategic or high value product or service, you cannot sell it from a brochure or from a pitch or from, you have to sell it from a conversation. Now, social is a great tool for generating conversations. And what you need to do to be successful is you need to take what happens in the conversation, you need to move that into the at scale digital part, not the pitch bit, but the rapport building, the here's who I am, here's, you know, I'm fancy shirts and guitars is what I stand for. And people go, oh, I've got a fancy shirt as well. Then we can have a, you know, that stuff. The idea of what you would do if you networked at an infinitely large breakfast meeting with people, that bit is the bit that people have always struggled with and do always struggle with. And I think that one of the things that as a repeating behavior in people is they're looking for the easy button. Now, you know, Tim, that we had a client who posted something that went properly viral, got 6.5 million views, got 40,000 likes, got no inbound from that. Yet we still all try to create a viral post, a post that will go and do the
I
work.
still get emails saying that they can make my social media.
Yeah. And it's like, so what does it achieve? It achieves nothing, because, you know, this guy, he did the post, it went viral, it got seen by millions of people, the phone didn't ring. So the point is, if you want to be successful and you want to sell stuff, you need to sell the stuff. So you can tee up a reason to have a conversation with someone, and then you have to sell. It isn't going to sell itself. So, but still, we have sought to find the easiest route. So multi-channel, multi-threading, hyper-personalization, and now AI that's going to do the work for us. And it can't do, because what I'm buying is you.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that we get sold this, we're being sold a narrative, aren't we? Which is that, which is the ultimate, the perfect crime, which is somehow or other, this piece of technology is going to do the selling for us. Whether it's Salesloft or Gong, which are two products which are pretty much have either killed or are killing selling in its best form, and now AI, which is, you know, that we've got, you know, we've seen people basically saying, you know, we can write you a prompt and it will create you a constant stream of leads. No, it won't. And you know, it's like, what we're going to do is we're going to get Gong and Salesloft, and what it's going to do is we're going to go, you know, what you're going to do is you're going to email someone today, and then you're going to send them a connection request on Wednesday, and then you're going to do something on Friday, and that. Okay, what you'll probably do, people will probably actually respond to you, because they're just say, look, stop sending me messages and piss off.
Yeah.
And as you know, and this is something that we've seen. I know that my partner Julie basically has responded to somebody, and because what she wanted to do was to say, I'm not the right person you need to speak to, and basically gave the person a no. And you said this before, which is that in sales, what sales has become is the fact that we're no longer searching for a yes, we're searching for a no. Because, hey, once we know we've qualified the person out, isn't that great and groovy? No, what you've done is that you've probably pissed the person off, and they'll never speak to you again. Rather than actually see this, you know, what we do is we throw them over our shoulder, and we're constantly digging this track. Whereas, you know as well as I do, we quite often have people that we'll talk to them and then we'll say, okay, it was great. They'll ring us up in 6 months and say, do you know, I was talking to you 6 months ago. Can we have another chat?
Yeah, and I think that's really and part of the issue with sales in its traditional sense is that people of our generation, so experienced people, grew up on a diet of Glengarry Glen Ross and the boiler room and stuff like that, which is all about always be closing. And the fundamental problem with that is that if you're not able to or ready to buy now, and I try to close you, you will never ever interact with me again, because the process of me trying to close you and you trying to get away and not be closed is a really unpleasant experience. And this idea of qualifying in or out, I always say to people that you should not think about qualifying in or out. You should qualify people now or later. If you've got a good product and a good service and they're a good fit for you as a client, they need to buy from you, but they may not be able to already or have the finances to buy now. Well, that's fine, because I don't care whether you buy from me today or in 3 years, as long as you buy from me. And every piece of content that I publish, every bit of work I do, every interaction we have moves me closer and closer to you over that 3-year period until you do buy. But so often we see salespeople, particularly on social, but in general, I think it's a comment of sales, that they are burning bridges. They get to a certain point in the relationship, they try to close a piece of business, the person says no, and then they can't recover from that interaction that they've had. And I got an approach from somebody just the other day, somebody that in a past life we had a bust up with, and they sent me a message saying, yeah, we need to talk. Yeah, because actually the bust up was not generated by us, it was generated by them. It was, we're kind of like, yeah, it's okay, they'll calm down, it'll all be all right in the end, because it is always all right in the end, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we've seen change is, unfortunately, we get, as every day goes by, we get proven more and more that we're right. Sorry. When we first started off 9 years ago, the CEB, they hadn't been bought by Gartner at that point, was saying that people were now 50% of the way through the buying process before they actually contact a supplier. We've now seen from 6 Sense that people are now 80% of the way through the buying process, and I have people that say, "Nah, it's rubbish. We're 100% of the way through we know." And actually, the 6 Sense report actually say that once that people are 80% of the way through the buying process, they know which company they have, and it's really just about we've got a short list of whatever it is. But that's actually been accelerated because now Forrester is saying that 85% of people are now using AI as a way of generating the shortlist. And of course, what AI will do is actually summarize everything that's out there on the internet, and will bring it all together and actually give you the shortlist. So you don't even have to think about what the AI will basically, and still people are out there thinking, I've just had an organization that said, oh no, we need to concentrate on our messaging and our branding. Okay, why? Because nobody cares. Because the only people that does care is OpenAI. They're the people, by the time that some buyer has basically done the research, that they understand your brand story through the AI, not by looking at your website or looking at your and the only way that you can get around this is by building relationships with people ahead of them basically doing the research. And so we have more clarity in terms of the research, which is the buying process is for B2B enterprise. The buying process is 12 to 18 months. The selling process is 3 months. So this is not Tim Hughes making this up. This is various bits of data that show, and that's having that clarity. Because if you go out onto social media, the most VCs will tell you to only focus on people that are currently in market. This is one of the massive pieces of self-harm that organizations are doing right now. So research shows that anybody that 4 to 6% of the market are in market any one time. So what people do is that they basically phone all 100% to get down to that 4 to 6%. And what they do is, are you in market? No, piss off. Are you in market? No, piss off. So what you do is you burn the whole of the market till you find the 4 to 6%, and then what you find is all of your competitors are there.
But you've also found that at the point that you reach out to them, they've already made their decision.
Well, yes. Well, so as you basically find the people in market, and you say, are you in market? Yes, okay. And what happens is that as all your competitors are there, and the thing about buyers is that buyers don't understand your messaging. They don't understand your branding, and they don't care. What they see is this blur of, I'm buying an email marketing system. They're all the same. I'm buying an ERP system. They're all the same. So what happens is that we've got an ERP, we've got an HR system, we've got a bunch of nice people, and we've got a price. If you're only selling to in-market people, the only differentiation you have is price. And therefore, the only way that you're going to win is just keep dropping your trousers.
Yeah.
So you're in this position where so all of these SaaS founders are in this position where people are burning through and pissing all of the market off just to find this one nugget of gold. When they're there, everybody else is there, and they have to drop their trousers. But they can't go back to the rest because we've pissed them
and
off.
that's the point, isn't it? Because you've annoyed 95% of the market. The 5% that are buying this quarter buy this quarter, and then you have to go back to the market, and then you're immediately 3 months later going back to exactly the same people that you annoyed 3 months ago.
Yeah.
And surprise, surprise, they don't want to talk to you.
Yeah. But, and the thing is that we know that 94% of the people may not be in market, but it actually takes very little time, an hour a week. I mean, come on, salesperson has an hour a week to invest in the future, an hour a week to invest in that, building relationships and trust with those people. And we know once those people are in market, you will be the person that will be at the top of because you would have built a relationship, and you will be the natural choice. And you've got the ability to actually sell stuff at higher margin.
Yeah. So,
did I bring my soapbox along with me today?
No. That's fine. We all love a good soapbox, but I think that one of the things that, and the drum that we've been banging for 9 months is that the answer to this is simple, not easy, but simple. You train everybody in your organization to be open and friendly and connective and helpful on all of the platforms where you have some presence and some control over what happens. So by that I mean that if I produce a directory of organizations that do certain things or have certain products or services, I'm in control of what goes into that. You're in control of what goes into social. So if you're a company of, let's say, 1,000 people, and you've got 1,000 people, all of whom have great profiles on social, as a buyer, or even as an AI bot, I would look at the company and I would go, well, here's a company of 1,000 really interesting people that seem to be doing exactly what the PR team is, whitewater rafting and horse riding and charity donations and whatever. They're doing all of that stuff, which is great for the how I feel about doing business with the company. I've got 1,000 interesting people rather than 1,000 dull people. If all of those people are publishing content, AI is going out and looking for this content. So you can say, look, there's a diverse range of content here, but all of it is basically saying the same message, which is customers are really happy when they buy our product. It deals with these particular issues. I mean, it's an obvious step forward, isn't it? Or alternatively, what you can do is you can do a series of one-to-one cold calls that aren't answered, and you leave them messages on people's voicemail that they never respond to.
Yeah, it's interesting because what we're trying to do as a business is in effect go out and get as much influence as we can, and the what people have always done is, the answer has been, what we're going to do is that people are going to go to Google. We're going to buy our way up Google, or what we're going to do is we're going to try and manipulate our way up to Google. The people are then going to go to our website, and then what we're going to do is we're either going to capture their email, and we're going to, through gated content, and we're going to nurture them, or we're going to try and basically create what in America they call a funnel, and try and get people to buy. That's all dead. That died on the 1st of November 2022 when OpenAI basically was launched. And even Rand Fishkin is now, even though he cyber bullied me up saying it wasn't the case about 18 months ago and there was no data, he's now going online and basically saying that is the case. So when you've got Mr. SEO basically saying that SEO is dead and all of those things are dead, MQLs and all of that, that is the final nail in the coffin. So we're in this situation where we know how this plays out. We know that buyers are going on to AI. We know that they're looking for our products and services. And we know how AI works, which is it will go out and it will search for things. So we need to be in a position where, first and foremost, we need to have content that AI is going to look for, which is content that people want to read, not manipulative content or buy my product because we're great, white papers or stuff, but what would normally be called, influential content, or
thought leadership,
thought leadership content.
Yeah.
So we need to be in a situation where we're sharing thought leadership content. Now we can only put one piece of content out, and if we put that piece of content to 1,000 people, it's still only one piece of content because of the Google multiple
duplicate
content rules.
Yeah.
So what we need to be doing as from a marketing, marketing today needs to be mobilizing its people, not just salespeople, but everybody. When we worked at Anaplan, we had the finance team. And we had the marketing team, everybody basically creating content, connecting to the people that we want to influence in the accounts we do, not showing them adverts that no one's going to read, like you get the ABM experts basically saying. What you do is you get people to create content with the keywords you want, and you basically share that out. That's the way that you're going to get the LMMs to basically find you and recommend you. Of course, the back end of that is you need to have your sales team going out and sending connection requests and connecting to the people that you want to influence. Because again, what will happen is if I go to an LLM and I basically build a shortlist of 5, and my mate works for a company that's number 3, I'm going to go to that shortlist and go, no, that's wrong, because I want my mate's company to basically to win. So what I'll do is that you'll just say to the LLM to change it, because if the sales team has gone out and they are mates with and across the whole of their digital territory, game over.
So here's a really good comment. So what topic do you need content on? Well, the company needs to be producing content that so there are generally 3 pots of content. There's content about what you do. So take us, for example. We are a social media, social selling training organization. So some of our content is about social selling. And that content is needs to empower the audience. Simply saying we're the best at social selling doesn't make it so. We need to prove we're the best. So we put out really helpful, really engaging content that we hope people read and they learn from. The next of the 3 pots is a pot about what you do. If we're talking to technology companies, we need to be talking about problems that technology companies are facing. So if we're talking to financial services, we need to be talking about the geopolitical climate and how that's impacting the financial services industry, because we need to demonstrate that we've got a finger on the pulse of what's going on for them. Then the last pot is a pot of who we are. So for me, it's guitars and shirts, and for Tim, it's travel and stuff. And this humanizes us and makes us hopefully interesting people.
So the three are what we do as a business, how we can help people,
what you do as a business,
what our customers basically do, and the problems they have and how we can solve them, and then us as in people.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the thing that I think is really interesting is that if you are that company of 1,000 people that we said about, you've got a marketing team of maybe 10, maybe 20, maybe even 50 people. And if all of those people are creating content every day, that's quite a lot of content that's going out into the marketplace. If, however, you've got 1,000 people in the company creating content every day, that's 20 times as much as your 50-strong marketing team is creating. And this is a numbers game. Yes, the content has to be valuable. Yes, the content has to be pointed and targeted. Yes, the content has to be interesting. Yes, the content has to be engaging. But there also has to be a lot of it, because if you look at the content which is pumped out by company A and it writes 1 white paper a year, you look at company B that writes 100 white papers a week, the only conclusion you can draw to is that company B knows far more about this topic than company A does. Now, it doesn't matter whether you're selling investment advice or manufacturing or whatever you're selling. This is a really important thing to understand. You're trying to coach the AI or Google or your market that you are the obvious choice. And what we know is that people and AI, they invariably choose the obvious choice.
And one of the things that you talked about there, which was interesting, which was about personal content. So about us.
Yeah.
So why is that important?
I mean, it's such
because again, we go back to what Ian said earlier on, which is, well, if I post a picture of myself, everyone's going to basically go on and say, well, you look really ugly. Take it down.
Yeah. So it's such a cliche, but people buy people. I can fall in love with a person. I cannot fall in love with McKinsey, who you might argue are the best consultancy in the world. But I could fall in love with a consultant from McKinsey. And this is about creating that bond between you, the buyer, and me, the seller. And we've always said that as a salesperson, you come into my office, you sit down and you look around the office and you go, oh, look, there's an old typewriter and there's a gramophone and there's the latest big screen Mac or whatever. And you are then trying to key into those things that obviously matter to me and show some interest in those things.
Just so for people that are watching, I did an analysis of all the customers that Adam basically sold to, and there was one thing in common: they all played the guitar.
Yeah, go figure. But I think that's actually a really good example, though, isn't it? Because we can bond over that thing, like with you and travel. You can bond over that. It's not like there's an implicit sales pitch in this. It's like, I play the guitar, you go, oh, that's really good. Can you do a different piece? Or can you do this? Or I was really impressed. Or you've got a better voice than I thought you were going to have. Or whatever the message is. And it's something that we can have a conversation about, which doesn't require me, back to Andrew's point, I think, about opening your jacket and showing a load of watches. This is a conversation between two people to build a friendship. Now, if you do,
and by the way, if you're watching, we have so much data. We have so much data that can back this up of people that have been posting, dry brochures and case studies and white papers that nobody cares about, because we know if you read it, what it will say buy my product because we're great. But there was a guy basically rang you up and said, my content is rubbish. And you said, so tell me something. And you said his son's learning to be a PADI diver. So you said, put a picture of your son and explain about the fact he's going on this journey to be a PADI diver. So he said, I don't believe you. And he put a picture out. Within an hour, it had 200 likes.
Yeah. And he phoned up saying, oh my God, I can't believe that this has happened. But I think what's really interesting is that every single person, if they look back over their own newsfeed, their own LinkedIn profile, and see where they get the engagement. The thing that we see time and time and time again is that reshared content from the company is the worst in terms of the amount of engagement that you get. Content about the company that you write performs much, much better. Content about the company that you write that's got a picture of you in it, like here I am at the exhibition stand, performs better still. And content about who you are performs best. So the day that you will get more messages than any other day is your birthday, when hundreds of people on LinkedIn will send you a message saying, happy birthday, Tim, happy birthday, congratulations, and you might argue, well, that's a vacuous waste of time. But the reality is, it is engagement. If you worked in marketing and you got 500 messages in a day from people, you'd see that as a really successful day. What we tend to do, though, is we tend to say, you've just sent me a birthday message. So what? It doesn't mean anything. You're not buying from me. But if you send me a birthday message and you're somebody that I want to talk to, and I then send you a note back that says, thanks very much, I really appreciate that. I haven't actually got that many messages this year. We've not spoken for ages. I'd love to have a catch up with you. You're going to get a far higher hit rate than you would with another outlet.
I mean, you talk a lot about the content and the engagement, and I think what people miss is the fact that how to harvest that engagement. Because I think what we see is that with that particular individual was that he got 200 likes or something on about his son, and he went, oh yeah, okay, that's great, I've got 200 likes, and then went back to sharing the same boring corporate stuff. Whereas actually, this is, getting 200 likes is modern day prospecting, because what people have done when people like or comment, what they're doing is that they're saying, I have a digital resonance with you, and surely you want to do something about that digital resonance.
But more importantly, I think that if you publish something and you see that you get 1,000 impressions on it, you don't know who the 1,000 people are. If you get 100 likes, you know exactly who they are.
Yeah.
And where most people fall down in our experience is that they don't do anything with that. If you've liked my post, I have a reason to reach out to you. Hi, Tim. Thanks for liking my post. I think we're due a catch up. Do you fancy grabbing a coffee next week in London? That is much more likely to get a response from someone of them saying yes than reaching out to them cold. Because I'm reaching out to you because of something you've done. You dropped a like. You wished me a birthday message. That's what's important, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And this is about basically getting a conversation. And so the other thing is, as we're kind of finishing up, is that when we're talking about social selling, we're not talking about selling on. We're not talking about selling on social. What we're going to be doing is that we're going to be using social as you said earlier on, as an ability to scale and have conversation. You'll have a number of DM backwards and forwards, and then what you'll do is pop the question and say, let's go on a call.
Yeah.
And so I've had a number of people saying, we can't sell my product over social media. No, I never said you would. But you'll sell it if you basically take people to Zoom or Teams or whatever.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that, we have to teach sales team after sales team how to have conversations. I mean, it's now we actually found it in a client of ours. They got loads of meetings and said the meetings go nowhere, and we actually then had to build a program to actually teach sales.
So thank you very much for coming on the call, Tim. I really appreciate it. I love the fact you've got the gramophone behind me. Let me give you a quick product demo.
Yeah.
I wonder why that doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah. And what we have to do is we now, it's now become part of the program, is which we teach salespeople actually how to have meetings, and I can guarantee you that when they have that meeting, the other person will actually say to them, they don't say it in these words, but they will actually say, pitch to me.
Yeah.
Can you imagine, every single meeting so I can get you shed loads of meetings, and every time you go on a meeting, that your buyer will basically say, pitch to me. I mean, this is like you've died and gone to heaven.
So as a follow-up, was a final way of rounding this up, I'm mindful of the words of a client that we did some coaching with in Singapore, PJ Francon. JP Franco, I'm sorry.
JP, yeah.
And he said, I'm having to cut down the number of posts that I do because I'm having too many meetings, which I think is just the most wonderful thing to hear from a client.
Yeah. I mean, his PA basically said, you need to stop creating meetings because you've got too many. And she stopped him. But let's end on Andrew's quote there.
How kind you are, Andrew.
Thank you. Very generous of you.
Yeah. So
Andrew says, I've said it before and I'll say it again. These two gents know what they are speaking about. They will not be giving advice on knowledge, and they are not just giving advice on knowledge on social selling and business, but life skills, and many people have lost.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Andrew.
Thank you,
Tim. Always a pleasure. I've really enjoyed this today. Actually,
we should do a podcast.
Do you reckon? Yeah. So we would normally have guests on, but we didn't have any guests this week, probably because it's the 4th of July.
It's the 4th of July, isn't it?
And everyone on the other side of the Atlantic is obviously.
So OpenAI, the AI people have given their people the whole of the week off.
Well, in fact, the company that I was talking to just yesterday, they're based in America. I had a call with them at 4:30 till about 6 UK time, and then which was like lunchtime, and then they're off for the next few days as a result of that. So if you would like to come on as a guest, or you know somebody that would like to come on as a guest, please scan the QR code. Oh, hang on, that's a better one, isn't it? Please scan the QR code. And in the meantime, thank you very much for tuning in to The Digital Download, the longest running weekly business talk show on LinkedIn Live, now officially syndicated on TuneIn Radio through the IBGN network. I think that's right, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
So thank you all very much indeed. And until next week, have a lovely week and a lovely weekend, everybody. Enjoy the weather.